Logan, what did you do?
Charles, the world is not the same as it was.
Mutants. They're gone now. I hurt myself today to see if I still feel. I focus on the pain, the only thing that's real.
What is she?
Beneath the...
Hello and welcome back to A Method to the Madness, the weekly podcast where we discuss, analyse, and otherwise ponder our favourite films and television. I'm your host, Patrick Laverne, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Mitchie. How you doing, man?
Hello, Patrick. How are you?
I'm good, man.
I told him to be enthusiastic in that, but he wasn't, so this is me being enthusiastic.
I appreciate it, man. I dig it. Okay, and this week we are covering the 2017 film Logan, directed by James Mangold, starring Hugh Jackman, Patrick Stewart, and Daphne Keane. As always, we'll go around and get our general impressions of the film. Mitchie, what did you think of this?
I don't like this movie as much as you do. It's alright.
Unacceptable.
No, you fucking love this film. You froth this film. No, I legit, like, the first time I watched it, which was a while ago, back in 2017, I remember it being not that great. That was my recollection of it. And I watched it again, and my opinion hasn't changed too much. It's too long. That's my problem with it. Like, the action scenes in it are incredible. They're so well choreographed, and they're intense as fuck, and they grip the fuck out of me when I'm watching it. But then the bits in between, you could have cut down half of the scenes and still conveyed the exact same message about Wolverine. And that's my main qualm with it. It's not something, though, that the critical response generally seems to flag, so maybe it's just me. But, you know, everyone's opinion counts, and including mine. And that was my opinion of it. I just thought it was a little bit too long. And I prefer, say, First Class or even Days of Future Past over this as an X-Men movie. But it's still a great film. It was nice to have, like, a Wolverine movie with gore in it. And I think that was kind of a niche thing that a lot of people loved, and I loved it too.
How long is it?
2.5 hours.
Really? That's okay. I did not pay attention to that, and I did not feel that at all.
See, I felt it like the scene when they're in the house, the family house at the dinner table, and he used to be a teacher too, and it's like, fucking get on with it. Like, it was too long for me. That's my main qualm with it. But otherwise, it's a great movie. I love it.
That's fair. I feel like it does straddle an awkward line of trying to be this sort of like reflective piece, but also an action film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what actually happens in the plot? Like, legit nothing. There's a baddie with the old mate with the robot arm. He's the baddie. They establish all that kind of shit within the first 20 minutes. And then they need to drive to the border, and it's just a fucking road trip movie. But, like, in terms of how many scenes there are, you could break it up into 3 bits. There's an intro in wherever the fuck they are in Mexico. Then there's a bit with the clone Wolverine at the farmhouse. Then it's the end of the movie. But, like, it takes 2.5 hours to convey those 3 scenes.
Yeah. I guess I'm not as bored as you because, well, I mean, so you've seen all the X-Men movies, haven't you?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no. I haven't seen Dark Phoenix.
Oh,
yeah.
Well,
I'm missing out on a lot, apparently.
Yeah. Save yourself the trouble. The reason I don't really feel the length is because I feel like every scene, it's not gone to waste. I feel like it utilizes all that context that it has, that it's established, and as I say, it reflects on it. And I don't think this is a perfect movie. I'm not a huge fan of the ending of the last act, of sort of that reaffirmation of the superhero myth, I suppose.
Yeah.
But, I mean, yeah, I just... what I love about this movie is that, much like Endgame, it really proudly acknowledges its legacy and the universe it's established. But inversely to Endgame, I like how it's not this sort of garish nostalgia trip, but rather it's like, you know, as I said, it's this somber and reflective meditation on not only the 17-year journey of this character, but also just the nature of superhero and comic book films in general. And yeah, as you said, the violence in this film is amazing.
Yeah.
I love how it's really visceral, but it's really clear. Like, there's this one shot that always sticks in my mind of in the first scene, and he sticks his claws through the bottom of some guy's head and comes out the top. But the guy's mouth is open, and you can see his claw in his mouth.
Yeah, right.
And it's just
okay.
like little details like that just kind of convince me of the violence. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like Wolverine, his way of killing people is so brutal, and he is like conveyed as an animal in a sense, like in the comic books and stuff. I mean, that's why he's fucking called Wolverine, right? And the fact that you can finally elaborate on that and kind of actually showcase that in its true form works so well as his finale as well, because like it truly represents Wolverine.
Yeah, yeah. And, that's a huge thing that this movie explores is that his sort of violent nature that's comparable to an animal, right?
Yeah.
And, and again, that was something that's been explored throughout these movies, from the very first one. I guess, and it's so fitting that this movie is with Charles Xavier because throughout the X-Men films, the early ones especially, he's the one who tries to sort of, I guess, save him and redeem him. He sees that he's more than this animal, but
Yeah.
everything about this movie is a tragedy. Just the fact that Charles was unable to prevent that from happening, and then Charles himself fell from this super intelligent, shrewd dude to this like kind of mentally degenerative person.
Yeah, it's super
Yeah.
like degrading. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, just quickly about that first scene, I've mentioned them a few times before, but my boy David and Ben over at DCM Works, they did a whole episode about analyzing just this first scene in Logan, and pretty much they talk about how it's like a microcosm that kind of represents the whole movie. It's
Yep.
really good. If you're interested in that, you should go check it out.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, again, like, with that comparing Logan's violent nature to an animal, that's like a parallel between the first film and this film, and there's some other parallels, like him adopting a surrogate daughter. In the first film it's Rogue, and in this
Yeah.
film it's Laura,
Yeah.
which turns out to be his actual daughter. I don't know, I feel like there are a lot of parallels between the first film and the last film, which is really fitting.
Yeah.
This came out before Endgame, and they killed off like this really lucrative character, I suppose, which was just a really sort of meaningful and artistic choice. And yeah, I give him mad props for that.
Yeah.
All right, so can you take us through a plot summary, please?
So, years after the events of any of the X-Men movies, Logan is working as a limo driver in a soft dystopia. He's looking after an old and mentally fleeting Charles Xavier, who we find out later on was perhaps responsible for killing a number of the X-Men due to his uncontrollable seizures. One night, Logan is approached by a Mexican woman who begs for his help to escort a young mutant to Canada. It's revealed that this mutant is Logan's daughter, and as well as having the same powers as him, she is also being forcefully infused with an adamantium skeleton. The company responsible for this, Transigen, were illegally experimenting on young mutants, and after an escape, said mutants are being hunted down. They show up to Logan's hideout to capture Laura, a scuffle ensues, and they end up escaping together to flee to an imaginary safe haven called Eden. Throughout their journey, a pessimistic and curmudgeonly Logan slowly begins to regain a sense of purpose in helping establish a new generation of mutants. In the climax, Transigen catches up with them, and being forced to fight, Logan and the children defeat their pursuers. Unfortunately, Logan, having used up all of his regenerative powers, dies a poignant death. They bury him, and Laura turns a cross above his grave on its side to mark an X, and they leave for Canada, where the safe haven known as Eden belongs. The end. Fuck, that was... No one's gonna know what happened in the last, what sounded like 20 seconds to you guys, but fuck. A lot of editing went into fucking this plot summary. Anyway.
Sure did.
Yeah, fuck.
All right. I want to talk about first about like what a clever plot device it is to, or not necessarily a clever plot device, but it's more how they execute it, of having, because the whole thing about Wolverine is that he can't die because of his super regenerative ability. So
Yeah.
how do you make a film where he dies? It's simple.
Yeah.
And it's like the adamantium is poisoning him quicker than he can heal, and the way they convey that in the movie is mostly visual. The way when he's leaning over that sink in one of the first scenes and the bullets are coming out.
Yeah.
He's healing, but it's not fully healing, and it's kind of really slow.
Yeah.
And it just gives you a lot of information, and I think that was such a clever sort of like way to go about it.
Yeah. There's a lot of... It's an interesting theory, though, because some people say, and there is some validity to this in my opinion, but Xander Rice, the doctor in it, he kind of talks about how he's the one that eliminated the mutants. That's why they don't exist anymore, because he kind of managed to find a way to breed them out, essentially. And there's some theories that say that, you know, the way that they would have bred them out, because, you know, if you're going to genetically change a whole population, a natural way to breed them out would be to put it in the water supply, whatever drug it is. And Logan's basically been taking these drugs inadvertently because of the schemes put ahead by the government or whatever. And that's the one that's kind of sapping it away at his mutant powers, which is why he's so weak.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
And obviously, like, in the movie, it says a lot. Nah, it's adamantium that's poisoning him. He keeps saying that. And, you know, other characters say, like, what's inside is poisoning you and stuff like that. But it's not actually, like, 100% confirmed. So it's actually kind of a half-valid theory. And, you know, it kind of makes sense. Because, like, I don't know if the adamantium poisoning thing is entirely convincing. Like, why is it taking this long? You know, like, you'd assume his regenerative powers are always, like, constant. Or is it because he's getting older as well? Like, maybe he does have a lifespan, you know, and, like, his regenerative powers get shitter as he ages. And then the adamantium starts to override the poisoning, override the regenerative healing properties that he has. He's just old. It's a combo of him being old and poison in his body. It's pretty vague, right? Like, the movie doesn't really touch on it too much. There's a lot of little bits here and there. I'm like, fuck, that would be pretty cool if you elaborated on it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the magic is that it doesn't elaborate on it.
No, exactly.
Kinda,
you're right.
Yeah.
I agree, yeah.
Leave me alone with that fucking albino. He doesn't listen to me. I know a damn speciation when I see one.
What?
Speciation. New mutant, a young one. There are forces trying to kill
Forces?
them. They want help.
Forces. It's too bad you're not in that business anymore.
They don't want me. They want you. Oh, yeah. That's how fucking stupid they are. They're waiting for you at the Statue of Liberty.
Statue of Liberty was a long time ago, Charles. A long time. There are no new mutants, understand? There's been a new one born in 25 years. Not anywhere. I've always thought we were part of God's plan. Maybe we were God's mistake.
So, you know, we talked about how, much like Endgame, it's really uses the universe that it's set up. And I think, I'm not too sure, but I'm pretty sure it references every X-Men film before this at least once in the film. So, and, you know,
Really?
Yeah, I think so. Not only does it use it as, like, just a reference, but some of them are actual, like, plot devices. So, for example, the adamantium bullet, which was set up in X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yeah, but he shot him then. Why didn't he die then? He just lost his memory. I don't get that bit. So he can kill himself with an adamantium bullet, but in that movie, he shot him in the head and he didn't die.
That's a very good point.
Like,
Didn't think of that.
Yeah, but wasn't that the whole point in that? I can't remember. Was it Stryker? Was he shooting him intending to kill him in that movie, or was he shooting him intending to wipe his memory? I can't remember what the motive, like what the intention was, but I'm pretty sure it was to wipe his memory.
Maybe. That's a very, like, uncertain thing. You're banking on the fact that it won't just go through his skull and kill him.
Okay, I know. Maybe. Oh, okay. So it maybe no one actually knows that it will kill him, right? Or they did kill the clone, but disregarding that, he got shot in the head in X-Men Origins Wolverine, and he thought it was going to kill him in that movie, but then he lost his memory about that whole event occurring, so he doesn't remember it in this movie or any of the movies afterwards. And then, so he has no recollection of the fact that he lost his memory due to the adamantium bullet, therefore he doesn't know all it does is actually remove his memory.
Sure, I'll buy that.
But it killed the clone.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe it just hit in a place in the skull where it was just particularly fragile.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah, all right.
Oh wait, well, don't they have like super futuristic, high-powered guns? Maybe it just shot the bullet harder.
Mate, if it goes through your head at fucking 10 miles an hour or 100 miles an hour, but it still goes through your head, you're fucking dead.
All right. Did you notice in one of the shots he has that sword he got from the Wolverine from that Japanese dude?
No, where was that?
It was, you know, in his little bunker. He's got it hanging on the wall. That's
pretty cool. I didn't notice it, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, you know, it's this film seems so detached from all the others.
Yeah, it does.
And I don't know, every time I see this film, I'm just so surprised by how much it actually communicates that it's a conclusion to all those films. You know, it's like,
Yeah, I mean, I never really noticed, to be honest. Like, I didn't really think of any references to the other movies.
yeah, well, you know, when he's putting Charles to bed,
Yeah.
he says something about the Statue of Liberty, like they're waiting for us at the Statue of Liberty, which was, you know, the climax of the first film. And he's
Yeah.
like, that was a long time ago, Charles, a long time ago.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Yeah. Remember the sort of analysis we did in Drive of that story about the scorpion and the frog?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the whole thing about that was that story was meant to represent the driver who couldn't escape his violent nature, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, there's very similar undertones in this film.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Of-
Yep.
Yeah, Logan being this creature of violence that he cannot escape. It follows him everywhere
Yeah.
in this movie, internally and externally. So we see this right from the beginning when he's fighting those gangsters. A lethargic Logan like snaps with rage all of a sudden. Like, do you remember that bit where he's kind of getting kicked around and in an instant he fucking like he transforms from Logan to the Wolverine.
Yeah.
Right, and that sort of like dichotomy is a huge part of this film.
Yeah.
And you know, it's obviously like it's called. You know, I again, like, I love it how the title of this film is Logan. It's about the person, right?
Yeah.
Not the superhero. And
Well, you couldn't call it the Wolverine because they've already got a movie called that, but sure.
well, yeah, but like, you know, they could have, you know, we'll get into this a bit later, but about how this film is sort of a demythologization of not only the X-Men series, but just superhero films in general, right?
Yep.
And it's sort of like, yeah, sort of this like reality check of superheroes, like, yeah, man, it's cool to see violence on screen, but that shit really fucks with you, you know, if that's in real life, like,
Yeah,
it's
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it also shows like one of our most beloved, powerful heroes who's never really been defeated. You know, he's very hard to defeat in a very negative fashion. Like, he's fucked up in this movie. And like, holy shit, like, Hugh Jackman does such a good job acting like, just like he's fucking dead or something. Like, at the end of the movie, you know, just before he dies, and he's like killing them and stuff, like all the baddies, like he's really, really on his last threads. Like, you know, like I'm surprised he didn't drop dead any earlier than that. Like, he was surprisingly so fucked, and he does such a good job at like acting it. Like, and then all the makeup on him, like making him look just, you know,
Like weathered.
Yeah, just so weathered, like a fucking alcoholic. Like, he just looks like an alcoholic, which he is, but like that's not the reason why. He drinks alcohol, and that's what I like as well. He drinks so much alcohol, and you think that's why he's fucking dying. And it's got nothing to do with it. Like, he could drink as much alcohol as he wants normally. He probably wouldn't do anything to him, but yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It's so, his performance is so good at communicating how just fucking done he is with life in general. Because he's been alive for like hundreds of years at this point, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what, 1800s or something he was born? So like, 250 years or something. But like, yeah, it's just like this whole movie is it just degrades our beloved X-Men heroes, which isn't something that's ever happened before much in superhero movies, and definitely not in like the MCU. That never happens. So, you know, it's really unique in that sense.
Yeah, and you know when he picks up that, or he sees that the coordinates for Eden are from a comic book, and then he kind of scolds Laura for it. He's like, "What's this like comic book shit? Like, you know, this is all like fantasy, right? This isn't real."
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I think sort of like it's critiquing us as an audience who kind of like gets off on this superhero violent stuff.
Yep.
The difference in this film is that we have to stay for the consequences. We see the violence, but then we also have to deal with the aftermath, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, and again, this manifests in a lot of ways. One of them being Transigen using his DNA to make Laura who they're after. Yep. So, you know, like, and in the film, he doesn't want anything to do with any sort of like call to action or crusade, right? He doesn't want it. But it's his responsibility at the end of the day, because it's his reputation as Wolverine, as this killing machine, that caused Transigen to make Laura from his DNA because they knew she would be like this effective killing machine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, it's still his problem because of his past. And then, you know, you got a way more direct sort of consequence of this with X-24, right? Which is the literal manifestation of that violent quality of Logan.
Yeah, like Prime
which
Logan.
Is,
or Prime
yeah,
Wolverine.
so
yeah.
You could see it as there's Logan, and then that X-24 is the Wolverine, right?
Yeah.
It's what we as an audience came to see, is this soulless killing machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's kind of lost his killing vibe in a sense. You know,
Yeah.
when he because he's just so fucked up when he kills people in this, he kind of doesn't feel like the original Wolverine anymore, except at the end when he takes that green shit and goes fucking hectic. But like, yeah.
Yeah, which is why I don't really like that last act, because, you know, the whole movie is kind of this setup of like, I don't know, it just seems really contradictory, you know?
Yeah, but like, fuck, he was so fucked up. They needed some reason to make him able to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, in the hotel room when Xavier and Laura are watching that 1953 film Shane?
Oh, is that what it is? Okay, I was wondering what that film was. But yeah, there's no living without a killing Joey.
Exactly, yes. That's, and, you know, very, very similar themes and ideas about a life of violence and not being able to sort of go back after you've crossed that line, you know?
Well, he says that like a couple times to Laura.
Does he?
Yeah, like while they're in the car or something like that. Like, you know, there's no killing. What was it? No life without a killing, or whatever the fuck the quote was. But like, yeah, he says something very similar. Like, you know, like killing is not a good thing, and like there's no going back from
Right.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's this like kind of regular discourse throughout the film about how Laura still has her innocence and still has the chance to not inherit the same violent nature as her father.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's that bit where he swears and then Charles is like, language, and then he's like, oh, what, she can fucking slice a man open with a foot, but you can't hear a few naughty words?
Yeah.
And then Charles just says, she can learn to be better. And then Logan says, better than me, you mean? And then he goes, well, actually, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, it's like kind of trying to save her. It's not too late for her. And, you know, they're literally escaping to a place called Eden, right? As in the Garden of Eden. So as in like a place free of corruption, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you make a good point. Like as you know, as a superhero that movie that kind of degrades it, that's just so unique. Like, no, that's some good analysis.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
That's right. Like, I never thought about it like that. Like, you know, but like it seems obvious now that you say it, but like, yeah, no, it's a good point. Like, fucking superhero movies are about the opposite of that, and that's why this movie, I guess, is so effective.
Yeah. And, you know, again, that's why the violence needs to be so succinct.
Yeah.
It's just like kind of everything kind of, you know, points towards that. Yeah, I don't know. It's so good.
You honestly derive no sense of purpose from what we're doing.
Okay, what are we doing?
There is a young mutant sitting in our car.
Yeah, I see.
And where we're taking her, there are others. Does that mean nothing to you?
Yeah. Yeah, it means nothing to me. Especially since Nurse Gabriella made all that eating shit up with fucking comic books.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, so again, as I was saying earlier, like kind of it comments a lot on just the nature of superhero films, but also I think the state of the film industry and pop culture at the time informed a lot of what this film was going to be about.
Yep.
So the first X-Men, along with Sam Raimi's Spider-Man and Tim Burton's Batman, I think were were the most like seminal comic book film franchises that, you know, later built the framework for franchises like the MCU to be propped up on, right?
Yeah.
To make them so successful.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, it's interesting how at the time the rights to X-Men was still owned by Fox, you know, which is not the case anymore. But to put on my tinfoil hat and make some like tenuous connections.
Here we go.
So, so the mutants are constantly referred to Transigen as their patents, right? And their whole mission was to create superheroes. So I think a beseeming connection to make would be that, in this analogy, Transigen is Marvel trying to retrieve the rights to their X-Men patents. And so X-24 is a representation of Wolverine in Marvel's hands. So, and, you know, kind of like a cash grab.
Soulless, yeah.
Yeah, kind of like a non-artistic husk of a character.
Yeah.
That, which is what I think they think general audiences want, you know, to sort of sustain that, I don't know, that myth and have them never change. Because, you know, that's one of the main criticisms of Marvel, like before Endgame and Infinity War, is that they perpetually had their characters in this mode of stasis so they could keep making new movies, so they could keep making money, you know?
Yeah.
Or like the changes they did have were like really kind of trivial and not, you know, like Paramount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get what you mean. Like, yeah, and what, like, the death of our Logan in this movie represents what?
Well, I just think that listen, I don't.
No. It's a good theory. Fucking
No. I'm saying that I don't 100% believe that this was the intention. Like,
No,
nor do
but
I
it's
think
fucking
that, like,
well, like, it works well, though. Like,
yeah, exactly. So yeah, if X-24 is like a representation of Wolverine in Marvel's hands, and so the choice to kill Logan at the end is sort of this like comment on how they're willing to make this sacrifice for an artistic choice, you know.
yeah. Or it could just be the death of what used to be.
What do you mean?
So you're saying that so X-24 represents like sort of a Wolverine that's owned by like a corporation that don't really like care about artistic choice in a sense. They just want to make money, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and Wolverine, Logan's death at the end of it kind of represents like that being the inevitability, I guess, or something like that.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's good theory. I like it. That's
Yeah.
works well.
Yeah. I wrote that in film school. It's like one of my first analyses I ever did, and I was very proud of it.
Well done.
Yeah. Just some like kind of like some bits and bob like of themes and stuff throughout this franchise. So I like that how X-Men, the whole concept of like mutants, it's always been sort of like a subtext about minorities and immigrants, right? People sort of outside society who don't fit in.
Yeah, and I've heard like the minority can literally be anything you want.
And so yeah, and you know, in this film Logan, that's a very one-to-one, right? Like it's a Mexican lady being like, "Can you take my child across the border to Canada?" kind of thing. Like it's very about like immigrants, I think.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how the villains in this film have this sort of like xenophobic and discriminatory prejudice toward mutants, yet they themselves are transhuman. Like they have robot appendages and shit.
Yeah.
Which, and you know, there are stories in media like Deus Ex, for example, which is a game series about this sort of social divide between transhumans and I guess like regular people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any more to say about that, but it's like a
Well, it's some
fucking
sort of weird
hypocritical, man.
irony in it. Like they want to
Yeah.
be like mutants, and it probably comes down to jealousy. Like they can't be like them because they're naturally born like the way they are, but they
Yeah.
understand that they are better, so they try and come up with their own way to kind of enhance themselves.
This is kind of lauded as one of like as the same kind of mold breaking superhero film as The Dark Knight, right?
Yes, I've read that. Yeah.
I mean, you know, I think personally, I don't think it's as good as The Dark Knight.
No,
And I'm
fucking
sure
no
you feel the
way.
same way.
Dark Knight is fucking like, yeah, no, of course not.
You know, the Dark Knight is so good because of the hero and villain conflict, where it's not that prevalent in this film. Although I will say, I do really dig the villain.
What?
He
Robot
has-
Arm Dude?
Yeah,
Or
I-
Xander Rice?
No, Pierce, the robot arm dude.
Yeah, he's alright.
He has a quote that you really like, apparently, right?
Yeah. It's just funny when he says it.
I want you to breathe. Just a flesh wound, baby.
Yeah, you just gotta play that now. Just put it in this podcast. Fuck, it's just funny the way he says it. I don't know.
I like how he's a fan of Wolverine too.
Yeah, I like how
Yeah.
he stops like drug lords on the side as well.
Yes, yeah. That's pretty much all I had to say. Do you have anything else?
Nah, not really. I was fully relying on you, and I think you did a superb job at having some things to say. So well done.
Awesome.
Pat yourself on
yeah.
the back, Pat.
Oh, thanks, man. I
Get
will.
it. Double pat. Yeah.
Uh,
Can you fucking stop doing that? Someone's gonna get scared and be like, "What the fuck's going on?" It doesn't even sound human.
So you're right. The first email we get is going to be like a doctor being like, "You should get that checked out."
You got fucking whooping cough, mate.
Do we do recommendations? Is that how do we do? It's been such a long time.
Yeah,
What's
it's
our
been a
structure
few
again?
weeks since we last recorded.
Yeah.
Yes, we do recommendations now.
All right. Yeah. Do you have any recommendations for this week?
Do I have any recommendations for this week? Nah, not really a relevant one, but I watched Ford vs Ferrari.
Oh yeah.
It was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I do apologize. It's not related to Logan, but like, hang on. I'm sure I can find a relation somewhere. Just give me 10 seconds to think about it. Christian Bale's Batman, who's a superhero.
Yeah, that's
and,
exactly
yeah,
what I was thinking too.
that's all I got. Anyway, it's like fucking like, I don't know anything about racing, and I honestly don't give a fuck about racing. I don't watch racing or anything like that. But like, the movie is so good, and I was so gripped the whole way. Like, honestly, like, if you haven't seen it, Pat, you should fucking watch it. It is some good shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it's just great. Fucking awesome. Anyway, what's your recommendation?
My recommendation is Nerdwriter, which is a channel on YouTube, has this amazing video. I think it's called Superhero Movies Get Old. It's about Logan.
Yep.
And he mainly uses this one essay. I can't remember who it's by, but pretty much this dude sort of articulates how genres change and evolve over time, and he uses Western movies as an example. And there are stages that it goes through, which he lists off as burlesque, nostalgia, demythologization, and reaffirmation.
Yep.
And pretty much what he surmises is that Logan fits into mostly into the demythologization category, with the ending being a reaffirmation of the myth of superheroes, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really good, really smart. Check it out if you're interested.
Yeah, it does sound very compelling.
Or I also have a totally unrelated recommendation. I watched The Breakfast Club recently. That was so good.
Oh, is that it's not Ricky Gervais, right? No.
No.
What's
It's a
it about?
movie from the 80s. It's about these five kids
yeah.
who got detention, and they're all from different cliques, and over the course of the movie they sort of realize that they're all people at the end of the day, and
Yeah,
they form
that's
a
a
bond.
fucking classic. Like, that's like top 100 movies of the last century kind of shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's on Netflix if you're interested.
Oh, cool. I don't have Netflix.
Cool.
I run a podcast but don't have Netflix. Makes sense. Plug-in?
Yes, where can people find us, Mitchie?
They can find us on Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Stitcher. And we also have a website at amttm.com. That is A Method to the Madness. And if you have any questions, queries, or doubtful points, please send us an email at mail@amttm.com. And also we have a Facebook and Instagram page, which you can find on our website.
Awesome. And what are we doing next week?
We are doing, I believe, Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker.
Ooh.
Recording number 2.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Holy.
We gave this a crack a while ago, but it never worked out.
I don't remember anything about that film.
You don't remember anything about that film? Anything at all?
The only thing I remember
Hey,
is...
spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. You should have watched it by now. It's your fucking problem. Spoiler coming. Yep.
Yeah. Actually, this is a real spoiler because it's about the ending. It's when Palpatine is shooting his lightning juice at Rey, and she's got the 2 lightsabers.
Yeah. X-Men.
No, it's not.
Where's she at in X?
I thought she was going to decapitate Palpatine like Palpatine made Anakin decapitate Dooku. You know, with the scissor lightsaber.
Nah, that's a dumb connection. If they did that, I don't. Nah. Sorry.
I think a lot of other people thought the exact same thing as I did. You're gonna look like a fool.
A lot being like, okay, like out of 1 billion people that watched it, 10,000 people is quite a lot, but that's like 0.0001%, and that's not really anything. So yeah, sorry. No,
well, those would be my people.
It was so much better that the lightning reflected back, because like that's how he got fucked up in Revenge of the Sith, and it turned out the way he was, and it's ironic that he again gets actually killed by his own lightning.
All right, you fucking got some analysis set up already.
Fucking hell, fuck you, yeah.
All right, I'm keen for that then.
Yeah.
All right, join us next week for our
Star
insightful
Wars
analysis into that. Yeah.
All
right. See ya.
Bye.